Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. Now apologies for being slightly late on this, but we do have to talk about the second champion coming out this month, and that is Sable. Now she's going to be a skill character and she's going to be quite unique because she's going to be the first ever that effectively sets traps that isn't root. I believe Kabam's calling it like trigger volumes, as in Sable mines, where you set a mine and it remains there effectively for the rest of the fight. You can set up 3 of them, and then whenever opponent crosses it, they take a burst of damage. Whenever you cross it, you get purified debuffs. So it is going to be a different kind of champion to a degree. Other than that, she kind of seems to have fairly similar mechanics to Black Widow Deadly Origins, where she does have shocks. She, deals a burst of damages. She can also access critical shocks with her level 2. She has Disorients on her heavy attack, and they cannot miss. So she will inevitably be Photon counter. Of course she will. This seems to be like the month when Kabam is releasing counters to the previous Nightmare Defenders. Like Negasonic seems to be countering everything and anything in skill class, especially Bullseye. And now we have Sable, who seems, pretty much pitch perfect Photon counter. So we're going to look at the full ability list as well as some of the more important bits, and we're going to start with the fact that her light and medium attacks have a chance to inflict shock. You have opportunities to earn fervor, which increases this chance. It's not the most massive amount of shocks, but obviously they can add up. Her heavy attack cannot miss, and it inflicts a 35% disorient passive for 20 seconds. Against science champions, it's 50%, which means you start a fight against Photon with parry heavy, do that twice, and Photon's not going to be putting on any debuffs on you. And if your shock spell trigger due to the immunity, you inflict energy damage bursts instead. And that's going to be kind of her playstyle. By the looks of it, you really want to establish, a cornered position. So any fight where you can be aggressive and you can corner your opponent, she should be kind of fine. For obviously provided the utilities and rest of the abilities work out there. That is one of the reasons why, Unstoppable is probably going to be one of her weaknesses, or massive amount of power gain where you spend a lot of time baiting out opponents' special attacks, probably also not going to be too favorable for her. Effectively, if you can't get opponent to the corner, she will be significantly harder and trickier to use. She does seem quite cheesy once you do get to corner the opponent, set up your mines. But obviously, we need to take a look at how effective all of that is going to be. Because here's one of my biggest worries, because historically Kabam has always struggled with implementing new mechanics effectively. We're taking a look at root champions, for instance. We had to get Kraven before we got, Baron Zemo, and, debatable how good Baron Zemo is, but it's not debatable that Kraven sucks. Anyways, similar thing with Ebony Maw and Professor X, for instance, where they were some of the first champions to work and rely on the Fulton mechanic. And a lot of people said that, Professor X was what Ebony Maw should have been. Obviously, Ebony Maw has gotten 17 different tune-ups and buffs since then, and now he's a respectable champion. But if you remember, upon release, he was kind of a meme. And that, in general, has been the trend in game. Whenever Kabam introduced something new, some, completely new mechanic, which this is in a way, because this is the first time we get, some traps that stay there, that linger, that are not root, that, deal damage, give effects to you. Brand new. And, I do have my worries on that. There are plenty of things that I do like what I see from Sable. For sure, there are my worries. So her special attack 2 is kind of like the damage attack. Once you have set up that you can convert your shocks into critical shock passives and you gain cruelty. Level 1 sets your mines, and level 3 is just, level 3. Most of the time people don't really want to do that. And fighting against her shouldn't be too tricky. The only kind of thing is you want to knock Sable down in her own mines with a heavier special attack in order to disable them. And then pretty much ideally just, try and push her at level 2s instead. So I don't think she's going to be a defender. She does seem like a, primarily an offensive champion. So here's the special 3. Refresh all personal buffs debuffs and passives and pause them for 20 seconds, deal a burst of damage. But yeah, most of the time you're just going to be doing level 1s and level 2 for kind of like bigger bursts and passive shocks. So the Sig ability, activating special attack, grants cruelty buff for each shock effect on the opponent for 15 seconds, max tax 10. It's actually more relevant because of the level 2 and the critical shocks. So the more cruelties you have, the more damage your critical shocks will do. Additionally, light and medium attacks that intercept the opponent have a chance to inflict additional shock debuff on the opponent. Overall, I think she's going to be perfectly usable on Awakened. Awakened ability effectively is more damage in specific situations. I don't know how big part of it is going to be, but all of her utility, debuff purification when you clear the mines, disorient passives, and all that stuff, kind of locked in her base kit. It's always a good thing, right? So the rotation typically is going to be level 1 and level 2, or in longer fights you can go for a couple of level 1s in order to set up several mines. And then every time opponent crosses, obviously they can take burst damage, you can purify debuffs, you can get those fervors. She looked interesting. I must be completely honest, like in between all of her abilities and everything else, I am far less confident in Silver Sable than I am in Negasonic. Because Negasonic clearly has, an entire class she's going to rampage through. The one problem, the one big question for Negasonic is the damage, which seems to be kind of better here, but everything else, and you can never really trust Kabam's valuations in damage as well. Like Kabam gave Destroyer in damage, so it doesn't seem to have close to 4 bars. So it's kind of, not hitting that hard, right? So yeah, Kabam's calling these mines trigger volumes in the form of Sable mines. And her strengths obviously are the Sable mines, dealing burst of damage, allowing you to purify debuffs, amping up the amount of shocks you place, access to a ton of shocks, access to passive disorient. Weakness, obviously, shock immunity, unstoppable, unblockable effects because you can't corner the opponents, and some sort of purify. Punishing. That, for most part, still a Sable. Obviously, I'm still interested. I think she could be cool. And it entirely, I suppose, depends on how true it is to the 4 in the damage, how easy it is to use her. She will obviously have good matchups, like Jessica Jones, by the looks of it, and Photon, for sure. They demonstrate that. But even against Photon, Sable has virtually all of her damage in form of energy damage. Shocks are energy, and, her burst are energy damage as well. And Photon has like massive energy resistance, so it also remains to be seen how fast she's going to be against Photon. So I guess the best way to describe, or my sentiment towards Silver Sable right now, is that cautiously optimistic. I'm not like mega hyped. I think she could very well be very good, but we have to get to that point. We have to actually get her in the game, play her, use her, test her, see how well she does in how many matchups. But I could easily see her also falling short. Number 1, because of historical precedent. Number 2, because of competition in the skill class itself. And yeah, I hope she's good. I hope she's cool. Slightly worried, I guess. But as always, you never know until the champion actually arrives in the game. Because champion does not need like 50,000 abilities. They just need 1 or 2 great abilities to do well. And that is an important thing to remember. Overall, definitely. Like, if I had to pick one, just watching through the deep dives and, reading the abilities, my money would be on Negasonic being better if her damage holds up. But you never know with these things. People were hyped for Proxima in a month when Corvus came out. People were much more hyped for Sunspot when Warlock came out. So, who knows? But, at the very least, it is going to be something new and interesting that I definitely do want to mess around and test out for myself. Let me know what you guys think, and I'm going to catch you guys soon. Bye-bye. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have